You guys have been asking for it. Equipment video is here officially. This is just kind of a general breakdown of all the equipment in the shop. Hopefully this answers all your guys' questions. If not, more questions in the comments, I'm happy to answer them. So my blasting cabinet that I get asked about often is this is the Scat Blast. I think it's called the Scat Cat 40. I'll put a link down in the description. This blasting cabinet, I believe, is about $1,100 through TP Tools, which is where I got it. I actually bought a package deal with the compressor, this, and the dust collector. It was obviously more money for all of those, but if you buy this individually, you're looking at about $1,100 plus the freight shipping for it. One of the things I did on this cabinet to make life better or easier is this comes with like self-tapping sheet metal screws similar to these from the factory. If you change glass often, this is not a good solution. What ends up happening is because they're self-tapping screws, sheet metal screws, and they're going in and out, you're constantly enlarging the holes where these screws go in, and the screws end up getting loose, which is a problem. You'll actually start to notice that it doesn't pull the glass down onto it, or it doesn't pull the surround down onto it very effectively anymore. If you don't blast a ton, you can probably get away with it. I change glass in this twice a week. So for me, it absolutely did not work. So what I ended up doing is I put riv nuts in. I'm sure there's other ways. You can probably just use a nut and bolt if you didn't want to have to worry about dropping the nut every time on the back side of this. I know one of my previous blasting cabinet, I had wing nuts on the back, and that seemed to work out fairly well. But with this setup that I run now, the riv nut setup is ideal. I can get riv nuts. You can get riv nut kits on Amazon, the gun and the screws. I ended up just borrowing a friend's, shouts to Jerome and Elevated, and put them in. I bought all the hardware down at just a nut and bolt supply place. And these definitely make life significantly easier. Alright, so now that that's done, I'll show you some other stuff that I've changed on this cabinet, and we'll go from there. So one of the first things I want to show about this particular cabinet, it comes with a light. It comes with a switch for the light and a plug-in up here to hook like a dust collector into or whatever you would like. I have added more light, and this will actually show you the difference. When I first turn this on, just the light that's supplied, it's like a flood lamp, is what lights up the cabinet, and then after a couple seconds, the LEDs that I installed also turn on, and they obviously will make a huge difference, which you'll see here. So right there, you can see now the LEDs are kicked on. They're much brighter. I worked in the sign industry for years, so I had access to a bunch of LED lights like this. You can get stuff like this on Amazon. They're just a generic like 12 volt. You have to buy a little inverter thing to run them. They just have double-sided tape, and they are stuck all over this blasting cabinet on the inside just to give me more light. So I guess getting to the rest of this blasting cabinet, I'll tell you what I do and don't like about some of it. Part of the stuff I don't like is actually an issue that was caused by me going to a pot system. If you look over in these corners, you can see where the gun is actually blasted through the sheet metal on the side. That's actually why this panel is also there, so it would stop happening in the back. I run the same nozzle that, or same type of nozzle that comes with the pot setup. I remove the dead man nozzle or whatever it's, or dead man handle, whatever it's called, just because it's got a ton of spring tension. I had some issues with my wrist and hand from a car accident, and it's too hard to hold on to that. And honestly, it's a pain in the ass to use that way. So I ended up just removing that, and the problem is the gun will sit and blast in an area until I can go turn the pot off, and that's what leads to these holes. It's the reason that all this metal over here is here too. It's kind of block off those edges. Another issue, now that I'm running the pot setup, gives me way more sand, significantly more CFM, more air movement. It blasts through the metal on the bottom of this thing. You can see this piece is a piece that I added. The original stuff is all right there, and you can see the support I've already blasted entirely through it. I'm actually, this weekend, welding a new piece in there. So you will have to go, they offer this panel in a replacement. I've never ordered it. I'm probably gonna order one in the next couple weeks. I gotta, like I said, I'm gonna replace that reinforcement with a different style reinforcement right there, since that's where majority of my work is happening. Other things that I like and don't like about this cabinet, it does have the spot on the bottom to drain all the sand from, which is awesome, but you can't even put it in like a 5-gallon bucket. You have to put it in like a shorter container. I actually use this one, which you guys will see when I show you how the pot gets filled. It goes down here to pick up, or to be able to dump the sand into. So other little things I don't like, the gloves that come with it suck. They're way too long. I mean, they do make it so you could reach all the way to the back of the cabinet, but when you're using it, they're just super bulky. They're also huge gloves. I mean, I have pretty big hands and they're still way too big for me. But beyond that, this has been a really solid cabinet. I blew away a bunch of the adhesive. You can actually see down here, all the sealant is all gone. Up here, it's all lifting off. So something to keep in mind. I've had this for a little over 3 years now. So, I mean, this is something that you're going to expect. Little stuff that you can service over time. The other thing is they do make a extension that you can replace this back wall where that hole is. You can extend that out to be able to put, longer parts in here. So this thing has always been a good size for me. You guys saw the sizing at the beginning of this part. It's always worked really well. It's got a huge door. Can fit 22-inch wheels in here with no issue. So it's awesome. And one other option since I'm here, the roller that I use, this is also from TP Tools, same as the blasting cabinet dust collector and my air compressor, all from the same place. This thing is awesome for blasting wheels. I'm sure you guys see it in nearly every video. There's also another variant that holds the wheel, so you'd set it on its back and it spins in a circle like that. I don't use that one. I don't like that style necessarily for blasting. It doesn't work for me, but it's another great option for you guys. I'll try to link it in the description. I know I'm gonna have a ton of random products linked in here, but I figured it'd help you guys find all the different things. The door on this thing is, I think it's 25.5 by 25.25 opening. Perfect for doing, big wheels. I do, mostly wheels, so doing big wheels definitely happens. Can fit a 22 in here with absolutely no issue, and I've actually done bigger wheels than that. So, oh, and the LED box that I was talking about is right here, and it runs straight into here. It's just wired directly into here, so when you hit the switch, it turns on. The other plug-in up here is for the dust collector, which is currently turned off. I probably should have cleaned over here at some point, but I'm sure you guys don't mind. This is the dust collector that comes with the system that I bought. Like I said, it's another scat blast system. I'll link it in the description. The only thing that I have done different on this, I've replaced the motor 2 times in a little over 3 years. I haven't had to replace the motor since I added this thing. This is called I think it's a Dust Deputy, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Dust Deputy. This just mounts on a 5-gallon bucket and goes in between your cabinet. If you follow this hose, it actually comes up to right here, and then this hose goes back into the dust collector, I guess down there. So what this does is this grabs all the dust and dumps it in here. I haven't had to empty the actual dust collector ever since putting this in. This makes a huge difference. The filter doesn't get dirty nearly as fast. I only have to clean that filter once every couple days. It's an absolutely amazing system. There are a bunch of versions of this from different companies. I think this one's like $50. I'll try to put a link in the description for that as well. but this thing is a great option for people who don't constantly want nasty filters. And then everybody knows once your filter is dirty, your air pressure changes, so you're not getting nearly as much dust collection, which obviously sucks. As far as draining media from this cabinet, it's pretty straightforward. It's got this little spring trap door at the bottom. Just open it and dump all your media into a container. I use this pretty low profile Rubbermaid container and load it into the pot. Next up, we got the this is just a generic Harbor Freight 110 pound pot. As you can see, the only changes that I've made to this thing at all were the bottom fittings. The fittings that are down here, I changed from 3/8 to 1/2 inch everything. This was actually done on the recommendation of another powder coater who saw that I was using this, and I think he actually had saw that I had some issues with clogging, and he told me that was the best way to fix it. So you end up just replacing, let's see if I can get down here and show it. So from right here down to right here is where you replace. I mean, this fitting I guess is also replaced to be able to adapt into there, but that's it. And then you just run, you have your 1/2 inch line that's going to run out to your actual cabinet. I also put a regulator directly on this because this does, you do want to regulate the amount of air that's coming into this. It has set regulations. It has a blow off valve if you overpressurize it, so you can just dial it in better with that. And then I use this is actually just a golf club with the head cut off, graphite shaft. I use that to check the depth, see how much powder, see how much sand is actually in here, how much media. So makes life real easy. You're supposed to fill this thing, I think it's like 75% full. I have an area on the shaft that I just marked and drop it down in there and give it a go. And of course, we can't talk about the blast pot or the blasting cabinet without talking about the literal best media on this planet. This is green diamond. I get you guys asking me probably every video or so what media I use. This stuff is amazing. This is actually nickel slag. I use the 3060 blend of this particular product. Pretty low dust. Can use it multiple times. It's super cheap. This is a 100-pound bag, and let's see here. Yeah, it's 15 bucks for a 100-pound bag. So I bought 2 of them, obviously, at 30 bucks. There is literally no better media on the planet. This stuff is awesome. You can usually get it someplace local. I'll put their website down in the description. The website's also right here. It's just greendiamondpm.com. Check to see if you have a local supplier for it. I promise you will not be disappointed with this media. I figured I'd show you guys transferring media from the blasting cabinet into the pot. Pot comes with this funnel. When I bought the blasting cabinet, it came with this little screen sifter thing, which happens to fit on top of that absolutely perfectly. I use the method taking a bowl, just a small plastic bowl, and going from my Tupperware container into this. As I mentioned earlier in the video, had an issue with a broken wrist after a car accident, so it kind of limited what I can do as far as putting torque on my wrist. But you can also just lift it up and pour it in. It pretty effectively strains out anything big that will stop clogs from happening, whether they're at the base of the pot or going into the nozzle itself. Yeah, works out pretty well. I mean, you only got rid of a few things. I didn't blast out anything too crazy in there, but that gives you a good idea of that process. All right, and really the heart and soul of the operation for, what, 12 years. I bought this this was delivered in December of 2008, this oven. This is a Ted's fabrication. It's 40 inches wide, 46 inches or 44 inches deep, I think it is, and 66 inches high. It says 2 burners in it. I added a little bit of shelving to these ones just to put these crossbars on. You can remove, slide around, whatever. These have eye bolts in them to hang various things from, some up top as well. The only real regret I have with this oven is getting one that was on casters that could be rolled around, just because you have to lift every part up into it. You can't do rolling racks or any of that type of shenanigans. So beyond that, it's been an absolutely amazing oven. I've gone through, I would guess, maybe 20 elements. Probably not even that. Probably like 10 or 12 elements. in 12 years is, you know, running an actual shop with it. So this oven's not huge. I have another oven that I'm building that's right over here. It's slightly bigger. The reason I'm going to this bigger oven is because this oven is great for doing wheels and stuff, but it's right on the edge of being able to do rock sliders and bumpers. I don't ever want to be the coder that's doing automotive frames or, you know, rock crawler frames and chassis and stuff like that. I just have no interest in doing any of that type of work, or railings or fencing, any of that kind of industrial commercial stuff that gets focused. I don't want anything to do with any of that. I really like doing wheels. I really like doing custom stuff and getting to see a variety of colors. So I'll stick with that. So that's where this one is going to come into play and be a lot more useful. I actually have everything here to do this. I just haven't done it yet. There's the ridiculous glow-in-the-dark wheel from a previous episode. Moving on, the spray booth. This was custom made. I used to be next door to a fabrication guy who I had built this. This is 8 feet wide. The opening is 8 feet wide. I think it's 4 feet deep, if I remember correctly. I actually have walls that can attach to the outside here to bring it out another 4 feet if I ever get to that point, which I'm hoping I won't ever do that. My HVAC guys are who built my system for filtration. So you can see on the left and right. Anybody who's seen my videos seen how well these work. These work incredibly efficient. I have 2 filters that go up on top. They have just 2 like furnace blowers basically. Probably a little too aggressive honestly for this. If you've seen my videos, you actually see it pull powder away from parts sometimes. Runs a couple different filters up top, which I clean probably once every couple days, or replace them, depends on what I'm doing. Has fluorescent lighting, or LED lighting rather, not a ton of it, but it's plenty bright in here. Adding the white walls, which you can't really tell right now because it's super dirty. Adding the white walls in the back made a huge difference. I have a chain that comes down here from one of the main supports in the center. It's actually a steel support, so you can hang, you know, literally anything off of this. I know it held something that was 287 pounds at one point. So it has you know, switch for the lights and switch for the collector. You guys have probably heard the collectors by now in the videos. They're not super loud, but they're definitely noticeable when they're on. The booth, I can give you guys, I'm going to see if I can find some other pictures of it if anybody needs, you know, kind of more detailed information about this particular setup. It's all just steel. I think it's a 1.5 inch square tubing, and then it has the like reinforcements that are like a 1/2 inch in between all that. So it's been awesome. It's been absolutely awesome for me. Hey, just want to take this opportunity to tell you guys to like and subscribe to this video, turn on notifications. Still have a ton of people watching consistently every video, but aren't subscribed and don't have notifications on, obviously, by default. So take the opportunity to do that. It definitely helps move us up higher in YouTube's rankings. I check the analytics every couple videos to see how we're doing, and always looking to improve. Thanks. All right, and as far as a powder coating gun, this is what I have been spraying with forever. I mean, since 2008. This gun has had 0 problems. I had at one point an issue with a solenoid sticking. It's always been a thing that I could just pull apart and clean. Usually just gets a little bit of moisture in it and gets sticking. It actually hasn't happened in years, so I'm not super concerned with it now. This is one of the old Hyper Smooth, I think it's a HS02 if I remember correctly. Original gun with various tips. I'm sure you guys have seen me change tips on this thing. Run different hoppers for it. I have 1 and 2 pound hoppers. Actually, I have a 5 pound that I never use for anything because I do wheels and you don't need 5 pounds of anything for that. So this thing has been an absolute workhorse. I actually have another gun on the way. I know there was a lot of people who didn't believe that I was actually using a Hyper Smooth to do the work that I do, but as you can see, this is definitely what I run. Another super useful piece of equipment if you guys do wheels at the rate that I do wheels. I bought this from Grainger. I'm sure you can get it from almost anywhere that sells like industrial shelving. These are all different types of bolts that are needed, bolts and nuts for doing different types of wheel builds. I have them in gold chrome, you know, black chrome. There's some neochrome ones randomly. I have some copper ones. I also put center caps from jobs down in here when I'm doing that. So It's been super useful. I actually originally got this to organize powder in and realized that you could only fit like maybe a pound or maybe sometimes 2 pounds of powder in each one of these slots, and it was a pain in the ass. So then my Chem Strip setup is pretty simple. You guys have probably seen this in videos. It's a 55-gallon drum with the tops cut off. There's one for rim strip, which is, I'll link Matt down in the description. You guys can contact him and get a hold of him about picking up this product. Just mention me and you get some decent pricing on it. And then this one is just a rinse out tank, which I'm actually going to be cleaning today. This is TSP and baking soda with water just to neutralize the acid. And then I have another tank up here. This is where I basically pressure wash everything into this tank. The bottom of that was actually loaded with baking soda to neutralize any acid that's left. And then this tank gets pumped into a 55-gallon drum when that time comes, and I get rid of it. So I have a company that comes and picks up all the wastewater for it. So works out absolutely perfect. Once again, I'll link Matt down in the description or put his phone number so you guys can get a hold of him about picking up this rim strip. It's a great product, great alternative to B17 as well. This table I get asked about very often. This is a table, I actually had built like a variant of this table, and then I had my buddy Antonio make a slightly better looking version of it. This is actually wrapped in suede of all things. But this is basically just a table to assemble or disassemble wheels on. You can see it has these conveyor rollers on it, so wheels can spin freely, and has a cup on each side. There's some design changes that I would make to this. I put these in initially to hold the wheel in place so it wouldn't scoot side to side, but unless you clamp these down with something, the wheel just pushes it, so it doesn't really work. I put the cups at the edges so that nuts and bolts would fall into that, or fall into these. That actually happens quite a bit. It's not perfect by any stretch, but it works out pretty well. This is just mounted on, I don't know what this table used to be, but I put the height up higher so I didn't have to bend down to deal with it. I'm actually going to be making another one of these in the next couple weeks with the exact same rollers. These rollers are just available on Amazon. I'll try to put a link in the description as well for getting those, but they're literally just screwed to a piece of wood. This wood I put an edge on just so bolts wouldn't fall off or drop off nearly as easily. The suede makes this little ramp in the corner, which is nice actually because it stops bolts from going, like dropping into this corner, which before it had suede on it was a pain in the ass to deal with. So this wheel you actually see in doing a video for how to disassemble, reassemble, and seal 3-piece wheels. So expect to see that shortly. And last but not least will be, this is a table, I think this one's actually just from Harbor Freight. This is like one of the $100 workbenches that you can buy. I have mine set up kind of specifically to what I do. I'm sure that depending on what kind of stuff you guys powder coat, you'll have this set up a little bit different, but I've been asked about this a bunch, so I'll give kind of a breakdown of how I have it set up. Up here, I mean, this is pegboard, so you can add all sorts of different crap to this. This is actually just a wrench for fixing light bends in wheels. It's actually designed for steel wheels. You can use it on aluminum if you heat it up first, obviously. I have racks over here with all the high temp tape. Also have a whole drawer down here full of tape and zip ties in here in case I want to go drifting or whatever. Wrenches ranging from 8mm, I have a couple 10mm, different types, and then it goes 12 or 11, 12, 13, 14, and then I have a bunch of these type of wrenches, 10mm wrenches for other random tasks. The reason I have this specific setup, well, I guess I also have 8mm, 10mm, 11 and 12. These are all 12 points as well, for mostly just for wheel assembly and disassembly. These will, the 11, 12, 13, 14 is going to cover all the nuts on 3-piece wheels. The stuff up here is going to cover, 8 and 10, normally speaking, are going to cover a majority of 3-piece wheel bolt heads. Have an adapter for an impact over here, just wrench, Torx tool for doing sensors, TPMS sensors, and that's pretty much it that stays on this table. I mean, there's a lot of generic stuff on this table often. I have this drawer over here is full of a bunch of stuff. It's got picks and stuff for, you know, getting parts undone, toothbrushes that I use for cleaning stuff, has some Loctite. There's usually some X-Acto knives in here, a deburring tool, which is super useful if you deal with machined parts often. Some valve core removers, have a bunch of different sockets, have some adapters, a bunch of different sockets for wheels, have some adapters, some wheel specific sockets in here as well. Squeegees for when I'm putting on tape, a box of razor blades always in here. This is a great tool if you deal with wheels a lot, especially if you flip wheels a lot. This will tell you the bolt pattern of wheels, which is super useful. Got some files in here, and just random blades and extra shenanigans, all stuff that you would use for doing stuff with wheels, which is pretty much all I do, obviously. Keep a shelf up here, got the clips that I use for masking valve covers, box of those. This is just a box of zip tie type scenarios for powder bags, then sets of Allen wrenches, metric and SAE. Another super useful tool is this. If you guys ever need bolts, this is to measure bolts with, so you don't have to take bolts down to your local place, or you can order them online. You have something to compare it to right there, which makes life way easy. One of the only other things I want to get to, I've been asked about this a bunch, is the stuff that I hang wheels from. The equipment that I hang wheels from start out like this. These are just, I think these are 6.5 inch eye bolts. Just generic. These are 5/16 eye bolts. They normally come with a nut on them, and then you can get this nut as well. Totally blanking on the name of this nut. Hopefully I can remember, and I'll put it somewhere in the video. I put those on, and then I put this in the vise and bend it. So you end up threading. You put this through the valve stem hole, and then you thread this on the other side. And I have two lengths of these. I have this length, and I have ones that are about half this length. It depends on the wheel, which ones you'll want to use. Some wheels where it recesses down in, you'll want to use the long ones, and some wheels where it just sticks all the way out, you can use the short ones and not have to worry too much about it. Then I just put an S hook on those and hang them from my racking inside the oven that you guys have already seen. I'll try to put a little clip right here, and you can see how 4 wheels hang in the oven as well. And then I have a powder area, just shelves and shelves of powder. Keep everything over here but the big box powder that I use every day, basically. So like gloss black, clear, stuff like that, I do not keep over here, but you get the general idea. So the only thing that's left on this equipment video is the compressor, but it's in this box, and I don't want to get into this box. I mean, you can do it, it's just you have to unbolt it. It's a pain in the ass. I made this box basically to insulate the compressor so it wasn't loud. It's got a fan on top to vent. It's got the door right there on the front to be able to turn it on and off if you want to do it that way. The valving for it's all on the outside. It's got various water catches and things of that nature as well. I'll post the link in the description for it, and I'll probably put some sort of imaging up over this video so you get an idea. It's just a Champion, I think it's a Champion compressor. No, I have to go look. It's also from TP Tools. It works great. This insulated box is literally just made of 2x2s and has drywall on the front and back, and then it has a bunch of sound deadening foam from an audio place on the inside of it. And like I said, once again, that's just to get rid of the sound. So it's got a vent on the bottom to pull air from, and then a fan on the top to stop overheating. Now that it's in this box, it actually is cooler with the way that it's set up than it was being outside the box, or before the box existed. It's a great investment. Spend a couple $100s and make a little room, keep this thing quiet. You can be standing right next to it and have a conversation with somebody with no issue at all. So all right guys, that wraps up the equipment video. Hopefully I covered everything that I needed to cover. I get asked about equipment all the time, so finally just said I'll do an equipment video. If you guys have more questions or you need more detailed information about anything, put it down in the comments. I'll try to reply. If I need to make another video of it, I will. Gonna get going now on the 3-piece disassembly, reassembly, and resealing how-to video, as well as how to do an intake manifold, so look forward to that.
By now you should have at least blown. It's funny, I'm mad famous for being unknown.